Legal tender, by user Nighthawk82. When I worked at a gas station in the late 1900s during graveyard, I had this guy come in and bought a candy bar with a 100 bill. Really? You don't have anything smaller? I'm just trying to break the 100, don't be a jerk. Fine, just this once. Few days later. Guy comes back in, grabs a candy bar, and I see he has other bills in his wallet. Puts the 100 on the table. Sir, I told you last time it was going to be just the once. I see you have a $5 bill. This is legal tender, you have to take it. Okay. I reach under the counter and pull out 2 boxes of pennies, 50c to a roll, $25 to a box, 17 pounds each. Here is 50, do you want the rest in nickels? What is this? It's legal tender, I can choose to give you your change however I see fit. So, do you still want to break the 100? Or the 5? I'm calling your manager. She gets in at 8 a.m, sir, but doesn't take any calls until 10. You want to review every single candidate? You got it, babe, by user Stardustros_9449. This is the best time that my warnings went unheeded and made the client regret ever asking. I worked in recruitment for 9 years, and a few years back I had a new client, hiring manager, and she didn't like abiding by the rules set up for the recruitment team. For one thing, we review the applicants, interview the best qualified candidates, and then submitted them to the hiring manager for consideration. Well, this hiring manager couldn't understand why we only sent over 3 candidates in a week. Honestly, she's lucky as some positions did not garner that many applicants. I explained that we submit 3 candidates for every 1 position available. This ensures that the hiring manager's time was considered when scheduling next step interviews. This wasn't just a standard I set, it was approved by her company's TA bosses, and frankly was standard at another place I used to work as well. Hiring manager, that is absurd. I want to review all of the candidates so I can tell you whom to pre-screen and then you schedule their interview with me based on my availability. Me, but, ma'am, you have almost 100 applicants that met your minimum qualifications. I don't think you really want to devote that much time to reviewing all of these resumes, and honestly, some of them were not great. Hiring manager, are you not listening? Send them all over to me and I'll take care of it. Me, yes, ma'am. You got it. I'll send those over right away. I wrote an email to the hiring manager immediately after the call, restating the topics discussed by phone and asked, again, if she was certain she wanted all of the candidates sent to her. She confirmed. I complied and forwarded to my boss with an explanation that she will take care of reviewing all applicants and my numbers were going to be skewed for the month. I did as requested, selecting nearly 100 candidates in the system and moved them to hiring manager review. Now, what this did was send individual emails for each candidate as an update to the hiring manager, and it would ping her email every 3 days that they weren't reviewed. Smiley face, I smirked, knowing what was about to happen and my rear was going to get chewed out in about a week, but it felt really good because I knew I was right. 2 days later, my boss calls and says he got an irritating phone call from this hiring manager who said she never requested this, to which they responded with the information detailed in my email. She was speechless. He let her know that I would go back into the system and back up the candidate process so it would be taken out of her to-do list and I would continue to send over candidates that were the best fit for the role as described in our processes. I never received pushback from that hiring manager ever again. Smiley face, you micromanage me, I'll malicious compliance you, by user Pisketti. So this happened this morning. I'm a trucker, and did a short load just to go from Spokane WA to Portland or, between my delivery on the prior load and pickup on the next. So dispatch finds me a short load for a little money. Most of the time, when a broker has you install a tracking app on your phone, you call and confirm you're on the load, verify pickup, then they leave you alone. Not this one. They want me to let them know when I get to the shipper. Let them know when I check in. Let them know when I'm in a door. Send them pictures of the freight, the paperwork, the reefer unit temperature, and the seal on the trailer. Okay, feels a bit micromanagey but fine, whatever. This load is 6 pallets of onions. Not high value, not delicate. Just onions. Appointment is 3 hours away the next morning, so not tight on time at all. When you're going to Portland there's not a lot of parking options, and there are a number of pull-offs and very wide shoulders on ramps on I-84. I park on one of these yesterday, at a place where there's access to trails and the river. My dogs and I get a hike in and the dogs swim. This spot is an hour from the receiver, and my appointment is at 6 am. These mofos wake me up at 2:30 am this morning. We see you're parked on the roadside, can you send us an update? Oh. Oh yes, I will send you updates. So I sent them pictures of me putting on my shoes. Pictures of my dogs taking a shit. Pictures of me making coffee. Feeding the dogs. The equipment pre-trip. Pouring my coffee into my mugs. My breakfast. The GPS showing where I'm going. My truck ready to go with the headlights on. The building where I'm delivering. The bathroom at the receiver. Me checking in at the receiver. The door I'm going to back into. Me taking the lock off the trailer. Breaking the seal. Opening the doors. And finally, backed into the dock. You want updates, I will give you all the updates. You micromanage me, I will malicious compliance you. Denial of service. You got it, by user stranded_video. Sue. I work in cybersecurity. One point I worked for a managed security services provider, or outsourced cybersecurity. Had a manager who was surrounded by yes men who worshipped him as awesome, which based on some stuff he showed I wasn't impressed, but that's irrelevant. He wanted to start stealing malicious site detections by various vendors and resale the data as proprietary threat intelligence, culmination of data mined by actual threat researchers. Sorry, not steal, redistribute for a fee. Anyway. I told this dude you want this data as a report, not an email alert. If you do this as an email alert you'll generate about 4 million emails in a day for just one of our customers, who will remain nameless. Bark bark, woof woof, reports aren't real-time enough, needs to be email alert. Oh, cool, so to make sure I'm understanding clearly, you are saying turn it on. All of this conversation was via email of course. You got it boss, and I did as I was told. Later the same night I get added to a critical call. Customer identified an email coming from their SIEM to the tune of 3 million messages and wanted to know why we enabled this. This same director asks me why it was turned on, telling the customer I'm the one responsible for building the ways we detect threats. Absolutely team. I apologize, I had attempted to have our leadership reconsider this requirement as it would adversely impact your environment to the tune of 4 million emails. Let me forward the communication to all of us on the bridge. Do you all want me to turn off this rule? Absolutely. I just forwarded the email thread. Manager, looks like you were the one who authorized and made the decision to turn it on despite the risk, and I went ahead and disabled the rule. Dude got promoted to VP and I was no longer involved in threat monitoring, so I'm pretty sure he controlled the narrative very well, but I enjoyed my moment of listening to the customer bring legal and discuss cancellations and repercussions. I left and am now the proud owner of a cybersecurity product for biomed and facility devices. Haven't done the dishes in weeks, by user classic ad 6001. I'm not sure if this falls under malicious compliance or petty revenge or a combo of both tbh. But anyway, I'm a college student with roommates who love to use my stuff even though we had a roommate agreement and I basically said ask first if you'd like to use my stuff. That lasted a week because apparently they think if I let them use my stuff once it gives them permission to do it all the time. I noticed one roommate in particular had taken a liking to my frying pan and mugs. Specifically, these are 4 identical glass mugs. One day I was doing the dishes and was in a rush to get somewhere and noticed there were 2 of my mug in the sink. I went to the girl and said something along the lines of hey if you are going to use my mugs please clean them. Then she said okay. I left both in the sink after doing the dishes I used. I come back after a weekend at home to find those 2 mugs still in there with coffee from 3 days earlier marinating in there and another one of my cups in there. I talked to her multiple other times in the following weeks about how if she plans on using my stuff she shall clean it. Once I realized this stuff was not being cleaned I decided, well if people don't want to clean my stuff that they use, why on earth should I clean my stuff that I use? So I stopped doing my dishes. Funny enough 3 days later this girl nagged me about doing the dishes, so I said then do yours. And she said that there were none of her things in the sink. I responded with the fact that all 4 of the mugs she has used are in there and my pan. She said those are your dishes. Her logic is basically if she doesn't own it she can use it without cleaning it. So I started not only leaving my dishes in the sink but using hers. Anyways I haven't done the dishes in 3 weeks. If it bothers her so much she would clean her stuff that I used but apparently according to her I have to clean them because I used it. Hypocrites are so funny to mess with.